Hello, welcome to Inspiring Women with ADHD. I am Renee Allen, the host of this podcast, the only person that puts on this podcast. If it's all come from my own brain, no input from anyone. So I guess host, creator, whatever else, producer. And I'm excited to be here today. My aim, the idea behind this is to learn more about how to navigate life with ADHD for women. Most of us, I think, are diagnosed in adulthood, but I'm sure there are some who aren't. But just figuring out life, because even if you have known that you've had it for a long time, you might not understand how it affects your behavior or your tendencies, how your brain works. And it's really helpful to understand that, to figure things out and just see how things could maybe be better. I'm going to put my glasses on. Oh, I think I'm wearing my other glasses that I haven't worn on here yet. I like the color of them, but I don't like the shape as much, but I need to clean them off. Anyway, so today I'm going to talk about time blindness. And it's interesting because when I first learned about time blindness, and I hope the microphone wasn't picking up that rubbing of the glasses so much. Oh, that's why there's more of a glare because these ones are more curved. I grabbed the wrong glasses. Anyway, discovery, huh? So time blindness, it is a part of ADHD. And until earlier this year, I didn't even think I had an issue with time blindness. I didn't think it was a problem for me. I mean, maybe a little bit, maybe in not giving myself enough time. I mean, actually, if I really think about it, I know I've struggled with time for a long time. But I thought for different reasons. I didn't think it was a lack of awareness. I thought it was more forgetting things or just people pleasing. An example is if I was going to leave to go somewhere and my kids said, "When are you going to be home?" And I'm thinking they want me to come home as soon as I can. So I say to them, "I should be home in an hour and a half." Or I'd say that to my husband, "I should be home in an hour and a half." And that would be, if everything turns out like I can imagine in my mind, I'd be home in an hour and a half. And it rarely was. And I didn't really notice this, but my husband would say, "You always come back later." He wasn't upset by it, but he commented on it. And I thought, I think it's because I know there's a range, like it might be an hour and a half or 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever it is. But to make the person happy, I'm shooting for the quickest amount of time. And maybe they didn't even care, instead of like 3 hours, Mom, why are you going to be gone that long? I'm saying an hour and a half. And it doesn't really happen. Things happen, traffic, party, wherever you are, goes longer. Who even knows why, going grocery shopping or something, and you just spend more time there, whatever it was. My time estimate was always off. And when I thought about it, I thought, I actually do know it could take a lot longer. And the reality, it's not like I'm missing the mark so much. It's more like I was just saying that to please those people. And that could be one form of time blindness if you really can't estimate time, or you're just not figuring it out in your brain. Another way to have time blindness is to just not recognize like how much time you're spending. If someone says, "We need to be ready in 45 minutes," and you say, "Okay," and you do something for a couple more minutes, and all of a sudden 35 minutes have passed, and you think, wait, I haven't even put my makeup on yet. And that's where I've been noticing lately I have time blindness. Because I think, wait, how did it just change from 6:30 a.m. to 8:15? Like how? Where did that time go? And it's just like you just can't see the time going by so fast. And it can actually go both ways. So with ADHD, it can impact relationships. And that's what I want to talk about mostly today, is not just explaining all the kinds of time blindness, but how it can impact relationships, because it can. Some people could be upset with that, with you not being able to gauge your time very well, or being late, or not being able to commit to a time that you've committed to. So, and there are different things like, just even being distracted or just getting kind of soaked into a moment. But time blindness can either feel like time is going by too quickly, like it's disappearing too quickly, or it could be like it's just like not an accurate concept of time. It could be, think of being in a classroom, like algebra or something in high school. I remember one year I had math. It's not like I actually math was my favorite, but because it was the last class, if I watched the clock, it would just seem like the longest class ever. Like, oh my goodness, the clock is not even moving. And that's not true. The clock is moving, but I didn't have a good concept of what was really happening. Or just, having a hard time predicting how long things would take. Like you might have an idea in your mind, I need to shower, get dressed, put makeup on, do my hair, whatever those things are that you do in the morning. You have an idea of how long it takes. And I actually have no idea how long it takes. I think in my mind, I think that the makeup and hair part takes about 15 minutes. And I don't think I'm very accurate. I don't think I'm very accurate at all. And I really have no idea with the shower. It's not like I take a long shower, but I've gotten a little better at taking showers since I made the episode about the things that we dread. I've tried to find ways that I enjoy it more so I don't go too long without showering. But I really don't know how long it takes. Probably not that long. But one of the reasons I don't like to do it is because if my hair's wet, then it takes longer to get ready because I have to comb out my hair. And I don't like using the blow dryer. I use it sometimes, but it's just another step. So all those steps to me they do take a long time. And it adds to that portion of getting ready in the morning. So if you are habitually late in the morning, does it have to do with you? Does it have to do with your children? Does it have to do with when you wake up? Does it have to do with not figuring out, even just the night before? I remember going to Hawaii, Molokai, which is if you haven't been there, it's a more rural island than, it doesn't have as many tourists and things. And I was there because my uncle bought a condo. My grandparents used to go there every single year for a couple months. And one year I went to help my grandma after my grandpa died. So at the end of my time there, different cousins or my mom, different relatives came and took a week to spend with grandma so that she could be okay, because she ended up having some health problems once she got there. And the doctor said, you either need to go home back to California or you need to have somebody caring for you. So we all took turns being in Hawaii. And she kept apologizing I'm so sorry that your trip to Hawaii is, taking care of me. And I thought, I would not be here. There's no way I'd leave my 6 kids at home if it didn't have a purpose like this. I wouldn't just be doing it for fun. It gave me a reason to spend the money. So I was fine with it. I still was able to go out to the swimming pool. I did kickboxing outside with a little portable DVD player. I did all kinds of things. I don't know if it was DVD or VHS back then, but anyway. So yeah, so in Hawaii, at the end of the trip, the night before I left, I needed to take grandma's car, which was just an old beat up Ford something that they bought. And I guess there's a lot of cars that people pass down on these islands that it's like, I'm never coming back. Anybody want this car? It didn't have a second gear. You had to shift it, and it skipped second gear. So you had to get fast enough in first gearing and make it go to third. So it was an adventure. It was a fun little car. But I had to drive from whatever part of the island that we were at to the other end of the island to the airport the next morning. And the night before, over and over and over, I tried to figure out, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have computers. Well, I probably had a computer at home. I didn't have a laptop or anything. I don't know how I was even figuring this stuff out, but I was trying to estimate what time I needed to get up, what time I needed to leave so that I could get to the airport on time. It was a little airport, but still I needed to be there on time to get to my flight. And then the idea was the car stayed there and my brother flew in a couple hours later and I left the key under the mat in the car and he found the car and drove it back to grandma. So that's how it all worked out. Over and over the night before, I remember just thinking, okay, so if it takes this long to get there, I need to get up at this time, I'll leave at this time, I'll get to the airport. For some reason, I couldn't compute the distance, the time and the distance, the miles and the distance. I'm usually good with that. But for some reason, it wasn't making sense. It wasn't making sense. It wasn't making sense. And then finally it did make sense. And then I got up on time, had my bag ready, ate. I didn't have a problem getting ready at all. I didn't make myself leave any later than I planned to the night before. But it wasn't long after I got on the highway and was driving, I think it was south. I don't know. I don't really don't. It's hard to know in Hawaii because in California, the sun sets at the beach in the west, except in Santa Cruz, because you're actually on a crescent, Monterey Bay. But anyway, but most of the time, the sun sets on the beach in the west, and you go to Hawaii and it can be north, south, east, west. So I'm not sure. But as I was driving, I would see a sign that would let me know how far away I was from the airport. I wasn't anywhere near able to get there on time to make it for that flight, like to have plenty of time. I thought, what did I do? How did I miss the mark on this so much? And I could tell, and I was trying not to go too fast, that I could get a ticket, and not to go the speed limit so that I would be late. And I'm driving this car that doesn't even go in second gear. And I'm driving just thinking, how did I miss that? How did I miss that? And every time I'd see how many miles it was to the airport, I think, oh, no. I get to the airport. Thankfully, it's a little parking lot. I don't have to park far away or anything. Grab my suitcase, run into the airport. I get there to the check-in counter. It was just a little check-in counter, but I get these disapproving looks from the lady there thinking, there's no way, like, what are you thinking getting here? I don't know what it was, 10 minutes before the plane takes off, 15 minutes before, I don't know, something really close like that. Like, she's just like, they're already on the plane. And I'm like, I know, but I'm here. If it's possible, I'm trying to be optimistic. But I'm here. Is it possible for me to get on the plane? And she's wanting to scold me. And so then I have to do a real quick security. And it was like in the movies, like in The Bodyguard or something, where Whitney Houston is like, gets off the plane and then she turns and she runs back to the plane because they're out on is it called the tarmac, where they're out on the place where the plane drives before it flies. And so I didn't go in a gate. I just, I didn't go through a little tunnel to get on the plane. I had to go on the tarmac, I think that's what it's called, and then walk up the stairs to the plane. And I had to run. It wasn't really close. I had to run. I had to take my shoes off, my whatever flip-flops or something I had for Hawaii, and I just ran, and got on there, like it's supposed to leave in 5 minutes. And I made it and got in the back, and they were saying, you're fine. They weren't as disapproving as the lady that checked me in, but it was close. And the thing was, is I tried to figure it out in my brain over and over the night before. And I didn't realize, because once I thought I figured it out, I thought I allowed myself time to get there an hour and a half before. Maybe I thought maybe an hour before, because I thought this little airport. No, not even close. Not even close. Oh, yeah. So do you ever overshoot, undershoot? I would think probably more. We have more tendency to be late to arrive somewhere, or to miss an appointment completely, like wrong date, over planning, whatever. So this obviously could affect us. It could affect you. It could affect me. But it can also affect our relationships. And I think that's where we need to, sorry if you're watching my hand still up here, because I just have to check every once in a while, just make sure the sound's working, because as I mentioned last week, it wasn't recording the sound. It was a little discouraging. But okay, put my arm back down. So how can it affect our relationships? I feel like our relationships in some ways teach us where our time blindness is. Because when I was just on my own in college, I had roommates and stuff, but I was independent. I woke myself up. I went to class. I did different things. It didn't affect anybody else but me. And the only time I really remember spacing it in college was arriving to a class plenty early, like 40 minutes early. I just happened to have more time that day, or so I thought. And it was a piano class where it was one-on-one. I paid extra, I think I had to pay a fee that semester. I did it a couple times until I couldn't afford it anymore. But it was important to me that I had paid for that lesson beyond tuition. I had paid for that lesson. And I get there and I hear the person playing the piano. Maybe I just arrived a half hour early, but I just heard the person playing the piano and just listened. And I sat on the floor, because I love to sit on the ground, on the floor, sat on the floor outside that door and listened to the person playing and the teacher talking to her. And when that time was over, the person walked out and I thought, time for me to go in. And the teacher said, you missed your class. The other person playing got to stay for an extra half hour because I wasn't there. And for some reason, it just shifted in my mind, where my mind thought I was supposed to be there a different time, where I just didn't know. And I recently did that with booking the flight that I'm going on tonight. I looked at all the flights. I'm starting teaching. Actually, it's not tonight. See, there's already a time blindness. It's hard to remember what day it is sometimes. Okay, good thing, because I'm not packed yet, but I'm partially packed. But anyway, tomorrow night I'm going on a trip. I'm also starting teaching 2 new classes tomorrow for the summer, back-to-back classes in the afternoon. So I'm thinking, okay, first class starts at 3:30. It's hard for me when I sub classes, especially if they don't start on the hour, like a 10 o'clock to 11. I can remember that better. This one is 3:30 to 4, and then 4:15 to 5. So I knew that, but there's a class I've subbed probably a dozen times, and I still don't know what time it starts unless I go and look at the calendar, because it's just not my usual thing. So anyway, so I knew I was starting this class that day, thankfully aware of that. And then I wanted to book my flight so that when I go to Arizona, I'm not missing teaching this class because I'm just starting it. I want to not have to get subs or anything. I'm coming in, I want them to get to know me, I want to get to know them. And so the idea is leave Thursday night and get back Wednesday night so you don't miss teaching those people. Yay, good idea. So I choose the evening flight. I choose an airport that's just a half hour away, and I think this is great. It is not until maybe 2 or 3 weeks later that I'm looking and, just kind of like I think I was putting some those classes in my calendar, Google Calendar, and I bought an app that has reminders and things. And so anyway, I was just setting it up in there. And it hit me that my flight was too early to be able to teach both of those classes. And I thought, really? And I wasn't sure, but I looked it up. Sure enough, I had planned my flight that takes off like 57 minutes after my class ends. So I'd have to teach the class, the second class, say goodbye to people, whatever, and walk out, drive to the airport. So it might take me 45 minutes to do all that. And then the flight would take off in 10 or 15 minutes. I'm just thinking, what did I do? So I talked to my husband and I thought, well, that gym is a little bit closer to the airport. Maybe I could get there more like 15, 20 minutes. Maybe it's not a half hour like it is here. I wasn't sure. I hadn't mapped it out. So I told him, if you can pick me up from the class, so I don't have to come home, I can tell him this needs to be a little bit earlier class. We'll end, it'll be a 35-minute class instead of a 45-minute. I'm figuring out all the time in my head because I'm so good at time. And so I was planning this, and I thought that way I don't miss teaching the class. And after a couple of days of running that by my husband, he's way more practical, and I don't think he's ever been late. He said, that's not going to work. That's just not going to work. And especially that time of day, 5 o'clock, when everyone's driving around and the lights are all jammed up, and it might take you twice as long to get to the airport. And he was right. So I had to get us up for that class. But I thought I had it figured out. And it's frustrating when you really do try to take the time to figure it out and you can't. How could that affect a friendship? How could that affect a friendship if you plan to meet somebody or be a part of something or help them with an event, and then it doesn't work out, or you're really late, or you're not able to stop at the store and get what you said you could, or whatever? that can make that friend feel not like they're not important, like you don't respect their time. And it can be discouraging. And we should value everyone's time, because they could be at home getting things done or running another errand or whatever it is they want to do with their time. They probably don't want to sit and just wait for you. And even just canceling things last minute, this is probably something I'm not as good at. And I don't know if I actually cancel last minute as much as I want to reevaluate the timing of things. Like I'll make a plan and say, should we go to dinner at 6:30? Everyone's just like, yeah, 6:30, whatever it is. And then as it gets closer that day, I think, I don't know if that's going to work out. Maybe we should do it at 7:30. Maybe we should do this. Or is it still work with? So I always do the thing where it probably makes it look like I'm checking in with them to see if this still works with them. Does it still work for you to meet at this time? Because I want to give them the freedom if it doesn't. Because it's hard for me to predict. Even though I can look at my calendar, it's really hard to predict how that day is going to go. And I hate being locked into a schedule. But when you involve other people, you have a schedule. And I found myself doing that a lot with my family since we moved here. And when we plan things, okay, then we'll eat at 4. And then I'll think, does it work better for people? Do you want to come? I don't actually mind if they say, I actually can't be there till 4:30. Does that work? I'm very easygoing with changing the time. But I also kind of want that flexibility for myself. And for most people, that doesn't work out. And I'm learning that, and I'm realizing I need to not try to change things around last minute. I need to respect their time. If they ask me, if they say, oh, I'm at this appointment, I'm not done, can we do this 20 minutes later? I'll say sure, because I like pushing things back. But I'm trying to not do that to them, not shift things around, because then, it kind of disrupts everyone's schedules. So, yeah. And then this one, I don't think I have a hard time with this. I keep saying that, and then I do. I bet you might have a hard time with this. I have friends and relatives who have a hard time staying in touch regularly, that someone else might write to them or call them and leave a message, and a week can pass by without even realizing it. The time just goes by, like, oh, I've been so busy. And I think as we get older, we start to realize that real life does happen, and that does happen. And especially if you have ADHD, I'm more understanding, I think, of my friends and relatives with ADHD, because I know that can happen where it's just not on your radar. You might find out that somebody called when you're in the middle of something else. You're in the line at the grocery store. You say, oh, I missed this call. I need to call them back. But then life picks up. You don't have a little Post-it note there for yourself to say, call back person. You might have an app where you could do that. And that might be a good thing if it's really important. But, opening an email, a text or something, you might not see it later. It might get buried. And I don't know how to take texts and make them so I'd find them again later. I do know how to do that with emails. You just open the envelope back up and it'll show up later. But most of the time when I think of texting somebody back that I haven't, it's when I've finally turned out all the lights. I'm laying on my bed, got the pillow there, and I'm trying to fall asleep. And I think, oh my goodness, you didn't text that person back. Okay, I'll do that tomorrow. I don't remember it the next day. And I need a strategy for that. Maybe you have a strategy for that. But a lot of times we remember the things when our minds have calmed down, when things have settled down, there's not as much going on. But that may not always be the appropriate time for taking care of it. And that might be hard for someone in your life to have you not remember. So, yeah, we don't want our friends to feel ignored or family members undervalued. And it can also make them not believe in you or trust your word or even want to get together with you. I did have a friend say that once, not about me, but she said, I'm going to stop inviting this person because they never come. And I think, well, they're busy too. eventually they might. If you value their friendship, maybe they will. But I get that too, if that feels like a rejection. But yeah, and then the hyperfocus can be related to time blindness, which is interesting because I understood what hyperfocusing was. I do that. You may do that too, where you get into doing one thing and you just want to do that one thing. You might be curious about it. You might love doing it. You might just think, I want to spend a lot of time with this, or you just start, you go in a room to put a book away and you decide to reorganize all the bookshelves. That might be your hyperfocus. It's on a whim, but you're having so much fun with that. And you can also do that with an interest that you have with one friend, where you hyperfocus on that friendship or that activity that you like to do with that friend. We go walking every day. Let's, do this, and maybe drift away from other friendships because you're spending all your time with that person. And it doesn't mean you can't spend time with people, but just if that is hurting a friendship, just being aware of that and maybe seeing if you can find balance with that. Also with romantic relationships, so a husband, boyfriend, partner. This could happen, all the same reasons, being late when you say you're going to be somewhere. My husband and I have been married for 37 years. I don't really think he cares if I arrive late somewhere where I agree to meet him. I don't think that bothers him. It does bother him to be late. So if we're going to ride somewhere together, drive somewhere together, he overshoots when he needs to leave, and I undershoot it. So he will come in sometimes and say, "Are you ready to go?" And it's like 45 minutes before we need to be there, and it takes 15 minutes to be there. And I think, no, because we still have time. I'm finishing this up, and then I'm going to go finish my makeup or something. I think he's doing that because he knows I can make him late. We usually we'll take separate cars if that's the case. But he does overshoot it, and I feel that pressure. I don't like the pressure. But yeah, if you have someone who wants you to leave on time, I used to feel pressure from him, but well, just like when we were all going somewhere, all the kids are in the car, we're all going to go somewhere when our kids were younger. And I would always need to run around the house and do 10 more things. Or if you just go out to the car and then I have everything, but where's my phone? I have everything, but did I bring my water bottle? If you really need water all the time, I do. So sometimes I would go out to the car and then run back in, run back out, run back in, run back out. Or sometimes I just spend a lot of time in the house before we leave, and he'd be out there with the car running, and it was a lot of pressure. Like, well, one, I don't like to waste money, so it's like, oh, the gas. He's spending money on gas. Like, why does he even start the car? It's not like it was cold where we lived or anything. But he just did it to get the kids in and get that part done, and told me he knew that I could function better if they were all gone. If they were all in the car and I could do what I needed to do, which I thought was so thoughtful. And that was before I knew I had ADHD. And I thought that's really wonderful that he saw it that way, because it was helpful to me. And it was helpful for me to understand that, because that pressure came up. And maybe with reminding me it's time to leave a half hour before we need to leave. Now we recently it's been more like, what time should we leave? Are we driving together or separately? And sometimes I want to get there earlier if I need to get something done. But anyway, depending on where we're going. But okay, other things. Okay, I'm sorry, I lead everything with, I don't do this. I probably do. So you can also just forget important dates, like an anniversary or birthday, because your time frames aren't actually there. It's just not evident to you what day it is, what month it is, what week it is. You might really be good with holidays. You might remember someone's birthday. You might remember Mother's Day. I mean, this even goes with family relationships and stuff too. I am a gift giver or a person, like sends my mom and dad something on Mother's Day, Father's Day. Not everybody does that or calls them up or whatever. And the one time I forgot, I totally spaced, and it's like, oh my goodness, it's Mother's Day. I called my mom, and it was hard for her because she was used to always getting something from me. I said, something will come in 3 days or whatever. And she's like, oh, and it's making me think now, what, Mother's Day is coming up? I need to think about that. But yeah, forgetting important dates could be a part of time blindness. Or even just if you divide what you do in the house. My husband and I don't really do this. I mean, we've kind of both, what do you call it, gravitated? What's that word? Where you go toward something. And the things that he likes to do and clean, the things that I like to do and clean. And sometimes there's a crossover. But if you are dividing things up and deciding, I'll take care of this, you take care of that, and you're underestimating what a great responsibility it is for them to do something compared to what you are or whatever. I don't know if that could be a problem. Or even with your children, saying, okay, I want you to clean the kitchen each night. I want you to clean the bathroom. I want you to... And with age, sometimes I would give the older kids the responsibilities like the kitchen and vacuuming or things that might take a little more attention to detail, where a younger child would get a spray bottle and a rag and they can just wipe things off in the bathroom. But we used to do that when our kids were younger, that every night we would have family prayer, and after prayer, everyone would go and do their cleanup thing. And it was so nice because that was the last thing of the day, and I'd always wake up to a clean house. I'd always wake up to clean whatever room it was. I had 6 kids, so it was helpful. Even the littlest child can take a rag and wipe the floor or something, so it was helpful. But this one is interesting because if you are hyper-focusing on something, you really are diving into a project, you really do want to get this done, you could be neglecting your relationship. You could be staying up so late doing something where you're not getting any quality time together or any time together. You hardly see each other because of that. So just noticing, sometimes I need to stop. Sometimes I need to just tell myself, I know I finally got started on this. It's hard. If you're not exhausted in the evening and you're just getting that momentum and you need to spend that time with that person, then you need to make some choices. You need to recognize that you need to manage your time to value the relationship too. And that's all individual for sure. But yeah. And then if you have a job, or whether you're working in an office, a school, wherever, on the road, whatever it is, any of those work responsibilities, you could miss deadlines. You could underestimate how long something will take. Sure, I'll get this done. Overcommitting. I can get all this done, and then you don't, or you forget, or whatever. But overcommitting, any of that stuff is hard in a job, because you need to complete things in a timely manner. You may have deadlines. Maybe not every job does, but if you have deadlines, or if you need to know what day something happens and then you're not aware of it, that can be a problem. And even for me teaching yoga, I missed a few classes a few times and had to develop my Post-it note system. And that was before I knew I had ADHD. And just get out a Post-it note and write on it with a Sharpie and just put it in probably 2 places where I could see it when I walked through the house. Because sometimes I could wake up in the morning, and I don't know if you do this, but you wake up in the morning and you know what day it is, you know what you need to do. It's something shifts in your brain. And it's not even, I didn't realize it was 4:00. It's more like, I didn't even realize that today I needed to do this. And so you just completely flake on something. So yeah. And if your supervisor, your boss, your team that you work with, if that causes problems for them, then that can be a problem. For me, the one time that I completely forgot about this one class at a yoga studio, thankfully, the woman who taught right before me saw that I wasn't arriving, had time, and she just rolled with it. She just pretended like she was planning to teach the class, like, oh, everyone's here, let's go ahead and teach. And she taught it. And she may have thought, oh, what if Renee's coming late? But the owner of the studio was not very happy with me at all. The fact that somebody stepped in and took care of it wasn't appeasing for her. It didn't make her any happier. But it really taught me a lesson. Like, you've got to be careful. You can't rely on your own brain. You can't at all. So, yeah, you don't want your reputation to be that you're somebody who's not going to remember. Or it can be, I'm somebody who's not going to be remembered, but I need a lot of tools to help me remember. It could be that. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. Being a mom too, with children, school, everything, losing track of time, waiting too late to eat dinner, but it's not too late. But then kids are going to get to bed later, and then they're cranky or just having a harder time falling asleep, and then they have a harder time the next day. Things that you do can affect them, or even just forgetting to turn in a permission slip. I don't even know if they do paper permission slips anymore, if it's all through email or whatever, but I missed a lot of those things. And it could be hard for kids, or forgetting to bring their lunch, or forgetting to pack a lunch. Any of those things. You know, if you lose track of time, you make them late. It's hard. In fact, I always think it's probably pretty rare for a child who's late to school, especially if they're little, to have it be their fault. If they're in high school, I can totally see it. But when a teacher recognizes a child is tardy, it's probably the parent's fault. It's probably whoever brought them's fault. But maybe not. Maybe not. I'm sure there are instances where it could be the kids too. But yeah, it can mess up a lot of things with school. If you're in school as a student, if you're younger, in middle school, high school, or in college, not as young in college, if you don't have a good idea of how long it'll take to get something done, or you're late to class, or late to a group study session or something like that, cramming last minute, all those things can affect you physically. They could affect your grade, forgetting due dates, or knowing the due date and going to class and forgetting to turn it in. My son did that a lot. It can be really hard. So what can you do? What can you do? I think anytime that you can see, I have time blindness in this, anytime you can have an awareness and see it, you might already recognize one or two things you do now. You might be raising your hand like, yeah, I do that too, to a lot of these. But as you start to recognize more of how this applies to other people in your life, it can help you be aware of it and maybe prevent it. Like if you have a tendency to cancel something last minute, or to do 5 more things before you leave because it's too early to leave, tell yourself it's not too early to leave. Go ahead and get in the car and get there a little early, or just get there on time. Don't do 5 more things. That is, I think, the very, very typical thing of, I don't need to leave yet, so I'm going to go do something else. I'm going to go switch the laundry, and then you get in there. Oh, there's some things I need to hang up from the washer that I don't want to go in the dryer. All those little things. Oh, and there's the trash. I need to take the trash out. All those things that you might need to do the last minute. And if you have kids, 100%. You can have a diaper that's last minute. They need a diaper, or their face, they ate something and their face is messy. A lot of times when we are estimating what time we have to leave, we're estimating that on optimal conditions. What time do I need to leave to get there at that time? That's with no traffic. Or if there is traffic, estimating that. But what about the optimal conditions in the parking lot, or when it's time to leave? If you have children, if you might need a little more time because one's having a meltdown, or they can't find their socks or something like that. So trying to gauge time not on optimal conditions, but on realistic possibilities, and maybe bringing something. I mean, now we have cell phones, so it's not like we can't be entertained. You can download an episode of the podcast. If you don't have cell coverage, you can always download things to your phone, even music that you can listen to if you don't have internet, or you can just sit, close your eyes, and breathe for a few seconds, but you don't want to be late. But if you arrive early, it's not like we get as bored as we might be otherwise. You might get up and walk around or something out of your car before the person comes, or use the bathroom or something. It's not always a scary thing being early. Speaking of time, I need to teach a class in 40 minutes, so I'm aware. Yay. Well, for half a second I wasn't. I was thinking I was flying away tonight, but Anyway, yeah. So it can have an emotional impact if you feel bad that you're the one that's late, if you feel like you're letting other people down, if you feel bad that you're not keeping your commitments, or you don't like being seen as selfish or lazy or careless or whatever it is. It's not like you're trying to do this to other people. And that can be hard to think that you are, but I think conversations are really important. If you have communication with people, and part of me thinks everyone doesn't want to hear me say, oh, that's because of my ADHD. Oh yeah, I'm really sorry I did that, but that's because of my ADHD. But I think it is helpful because everyone has their things, right? Whether they have a mental health condition or, I mean, not everyone has a mental health condition for sure, but a lot of people do. Like they might have anxiety, but they don't have ADHD. Or they might just be more introverted and not understand, why is everybody else so happy to be with people, but I'm not? Everyone has their things of the way they are. And if there's a way to have a conversation where it doesn't just sound like you're giving a lot of excuses, because that's what people think. Not everyone, but some people do. But there might be more compassion there, and it might help you be aware of their reaction to it, and it just might help your relationship more. As I say, my son just came home from college. My mouth's getting dry. But I noticed him doing this when he was there, but I thought, I get it. It's my tendency too. You know, where he'd plan something and he'd have kind of a hard time, like what time, if we want to do this tomorrow, and then we want to go kayaking, then we want to swim in the pool, and then I have to fly out, so we have to drive to Orlando. I had to take him to Orlando to go to the airport. It was a farther airport. So we were figuring that out together. And we were trying to give the optimal time of getting as much sleep as he could without getting up too early, but also having enough time to do things. And he didn't wake up in time to do that, or at least to give himself enough time to do things, because he's not always aware of time once he is up. So anyway, so yeah, I just saw him do that kind of thing a few times, like, you know, I got to eat some breakfast first or whatever. And I thought, I'd want to do that too. I'd want to shift the time parameters around if I could, because I think sometimes I like to live life where I can do things when it feels right and when I feel like I'm ready to do it. And that feels better for me, but that doesn't work for everybody else. And just seeing him do it, I thought I can identify with that. I know why he's doing it, and I know that I do it in my own way too. So I had more compassion for him, but I saw that it didn't work for everybody else. And yeah, I think just observing other people in your life. Are there people who don't estimate time well or value your time in your life, that it affects you? And sometimes seeing that is really helpful, because then you start to see, do I do that? Yeah, and how do I do that? Because I really didn't know I knew my son did this, but I didn't know why. I didn't know he had ADHD when he was still in high school. And, you know, like, we need to leave at this time. You need to come in and eat breakfast. You know, it's time to go. Okay, I will. And then in my idea, like, if you don't give yourself time enough for breakfast, you either go without. I mean, not that I want him to go without in high school, but like for myself, I would either just go without or grab something and eat it on the way. But he wanted to sit down and eat it, and then he wanted to brush his teeth afterwards. And I'm like, you have to skip steps. You have to skip steps if you haven't given yourself enough time. You have to streamline the steps and you know, pull the hair back, or whatever it is, the steps that women might have. Maybe men do too, pull the hair back. But anyway, I think that'll be it for today. Thank you for being here. Oh, and if you need any other tips, I mean, I think I mentioned them throughout. is just, a timer, a reminder, a calendar, something you can look at. I like the written things and I like the digital things. I like a combination where I can see it on the wall. I can see, oh, that's where I have to go. That's what I have to do. So anyway, thank you, thank you, thank you. I will be back in a couple days. I'm not really, but I'm recording this early. So, yeah. Time blindness. Do you have it? If you do, is there anything you can do about it? Even if they're just tiny little improvements. It's good. It's good to make improvements in life because it'll make your life a little bit less stressful and be nicer for other people. So thank you so much. And feel free to contact me if you want, whether through email or through my website. I do have an Instagram account, Inspiring Women with ADHD. I think it has the with in there. If you want to DM me, if you ever want to send a message or something, I love getting emails from people and hearing how either my podcast or my newsletter resonates with people. I try to give tips in there if I can. And just let us know we're all in this together. So thank you so much. Bye.